Hey, everybody, welcome to Before College TV. Tonight, I have another college conversation, this time with three graduates from White Swan High School. We've got Jessica Cheney, Madison Anderson, and Oscar Guzman. It's good to have you all. Welcome, panelists. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
This is
Hello.
exciting. I am so pumped to get to visit with everybody today because each of them has a really fascinating story and they're doing really cool things. And it's awesome for you to see how did everybody get to where they are, because they were there. They were at White Swan in the same seats that so many students are in right now, and they're here. And Jessica, Madison, Oscar. So did you all know each other? Madison, did you know Jessica and Oscar when you were in school?
Yeah, we actually graduated together, so we kind of known each other for years.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
exciting. So forever, because have you lived in White Swan your whole life, Madison?
I haven't. I've lived there since about like seventh grade, but I
Okay.
haven't lived in White Swan my whole life.
What about you, Oscar?
Yeah, I've been in White Swan my whole life, from Hare Elementary all the way up to White Swan High School.
Awesome, man. So like you live, breathe, you are White Swan.
Yeah, I breathe reservation.
Oh, is that right? Do you live on the reservation?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
great.
right on.
Oh, cool. So that'll be interesting. I'd love to learn more about that. And then Jessica, how about you? How long have you been at White Swan?
Yeah, same with Oscar. I went to Hare Elementary. I remember Oscar from probably like first, second grade, and then went to West One High School.
Did you ever go to birthday parties with Oscar when you were in grade school?
No, not that close.
Oh, okay. So it's not like everyone
No.
invites each other to their birthday parties or like
Right.
birthdays, right? Did that hurt your feelings that you weren't included, Jessica?
No, no,
Because we could talk about it
it didn't.
now, right? We're all
No,
adults.
it didn't. I mean, we had different friends.
I'm just messing around. I'm just making trouble. So I want to get to know all of you. Jessica, let's just start with you because, we're here, we're talking. I would love to know, Jessica, just give us a little background because I know that there are students who are looking at you and they're like, I don't really know Jessica, and who is Jessica, and what was Jessica like when Jessica was in high school? So if you could give like a really very like stereotypical description of you in terms of like where you hung out, whether you were shy, whether you were like, president of the class.
The person I was in high school and middle school, I was shy unless I was like with my friends having a good time, just being outgoing. I really only just went to school, hung out with friends, and went to practice and went back home. Wasn't really much of a person who went out and did a lot of things.
So when you said you would just go to practice, what would you play?
In middle school and high school, I played volleyball and basketball. And then in high school, I did volleyball and basketball all 4 years. And then softball my freshman year, and then track my sophomore, junior, senior.
I understand you're kind of known a little bit for being an extraordinary basketball player. Is that true?
I was all right.
Am I making that up, Madison?
No, she was pretty good. She's great. I mean, she got a scholarship, so.
Yeah, like you're pretty awesome. Right. And then were you a good student or were you a really mediocre, not so great student, bad student?
I wouldn't say I was a bad student, but I wasn't like the best student.
You got your stuff done, but
Got my stuff done and
right.
got out.
And you got out and you made your closest friends through athletics?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's where we'd hang out most of the time would be sports, either whether it's a game, the bus ride, our practice.
Yeah. When you started any of your sports, were you awful? Like, do you remember being bad?
Oh yeah. I was horrible at volleyball for sure. That was not my sport. But I did it I really only did sports to help my grades.
How did that help your grades?
You had to be eligible in order to play. So I was making sure I was passed my classes in order to play.
Nice. So you created some incentives. That's a good tip to, play sports because it will force you to get a little bit of a better grade. And also
Yeah.
in your case, sports really helped to open some doors because you were offered a scholarship, right? And maybe multiple scholarships. Is that true?
Yeah, I was offered a couple scholarships through basketball.
Yeah. And I understand you did take one of them, right?
I did. I went to Walla Walla Community College.
So that is not close to home, is it?
Yeah, it's just like about 2 hours.
So you're all like, I think that like being 2 hours away, you know, is like it's a good amount of time. It's not,
It is, yeah. I
you
mean,
feel like,
I could probably go home and hang out with family and make it like a day trip and go back.
right. So sometimes you do that, but you lived in, probably like a residence hall or apartment, right?
So no, when I went to Walla Walla, I got a house with about 4 teammates. So it was pretty cheap rent. It was more like the landlord only rented it out to athletes. So that
Okay.
was really nice.
But you were away from home, uh,
Right.
in a new place, surrounded by new people, having to make that transition. And I imagine that was a really big change for you, right?
Yeah, it was. Definitely did a big step out of my comfort zone of the high school me of being really shy and just sticking with the same friends I've always been with, and then moving out of my hometown into a new home with 3 other different people I did not know. It was really different, but I got really used to it really easy. Just most of the fact that they're on my basketball team as well. So we were with each other about 24/7.
See, I always discourage people from living with teammates because you're with them all the time. And
Right.
in any team situation, you're probably going to like, you're probably going to like really like maybe two or three people. And then you're going to get along with, maybe another half of the team. And then there's like a quarter that you're kind of like, you're like, you don't dislike, but there's always a few that you just like, ew. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's probably accurate. So, but you can't get away from those people, right?
Right.
So I would imagine that that could be a little bit hard.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I probably, till this day, one of my roommates from that freshman year of college, I'm still friends with till this day. But the other two was like what you said, just like they're kind of just there. I didn't really bond with them as I thought I was going to.
Yeah. But you weren't arch enemies.
No, we weren't.
It was just like you coexisted.
Yeah.
Right. Because people don't realize that if you have a roommate, you don't need to be best friends. You just have,
Right.
you just have to coexist and not eat each other's stuff, right?
Right. Yeah.
And if you do, tell
Exactly.
them and give them money, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We're going to learn about your experiences at Walla Walla. I want to learn about being on a team. I want to understand how you can get a scholarship because I know there's a lot of people who really dream of that. And
Right.
just like, your path. And along the way, Jessica, if you want to offer any advice for anybody who's younger, who's starting on this path, feel free because I'm excited for them to get
Okay.
to know you. Yeah. So cool. All right. Let's get to know. And now, were you and Madison friends in seventh or eighth grade? Ninth grade?
I
10th?
want to
Were you
say
friends at
like,
all?
yeah, we were. I would say we were friends. I don't know what Madison thinks.
Ah,
Yeah, I mean,
No,
we
we
had like a really
um.
small, sorry, I
No, go
interrupted.
ahead.
Yeah, we
No,
had
you're
like a really small class, and I think we all had our like I don't know, like I've talked to Oscar and I've talked to like Ashley if she was here, like I've talked to Jessica. I don't know, like we've all had our like times like
yeah.
throughout high school and middle school that we were like friends. Yeah,
How big was your graduating class, Madison?
like 49 maybe. I'm not too sure the number, but I think it was like around 49.
Right. So when you have a
Yeah.
graduating class of 49, you tend to know each other pretty well. Yeah, I
Yeah.
would imagine. Where did you find your places and where did you meet your people?
I mean, moving to a new school where everybody was already knew each other for their whole lives basically was really challenging because I didn't know anybody. I was kind of like the new kid. Everybody knew that I was the new kid because I had just walked in and obviously they know everybody. So at first I think I was really shy, but I think once we hit like high school, I think it was like more like I felt more comfortable in like the class and like I felt like I fit in. I definitely found my community within like groups. I was in a group called Dream Makers, and that's like a suicide prevention, drug, alcohol prevention club, education around all of that as well. And so that was super nice. So I found community through that, but I also found community like just sitting in class and being able to talk to everybody as well.
So tell me, what was the group that you were involved with again?
So it's called Dream Makers. It was a White Swan coalition. And we would talk about like drug and alcohol prevention, suicide prevention, like how to help friends stuff. We went to like forums and presented before.
And anyone can be a part of it?
Yeah, I mean, anyone. I think there was like middle schoolers and high schoolers that could be like a part of it. It was a tight knit community once you like joined and stuff. So it's really nice.
Yeah, that's great. And I saw that. So, and then also you're part of the National Honor Society. Congratulations
Yeah.
for that. Was that hard to get into the National Honor Society?
In college, it was like in my university right now, it's a little harder to get into just because it's rigorous. So that was definitely harder for me. But high school, I think they just looked at like your GPA or something like that, and classes you were taking. If you took like rigorous classes,
Yeah.
AP classes, excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it was that hard. I think a lot of people were actually in it, but I'm not too sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to your grades, it sounds like you did pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to toot my own horn, but I think I did pretty well, and I continue to do so. So
Yeah. So like academics are important. Have they always been important to you?
yeah, I think a little bit of a personal note, like academics has kind of like helped me not face like life problems or anything like that. So I think I've really put my face in the book and really like focus my life on like constant learning and constant education. And I think that goes along to say like throughout my even undergrad degree so far, like that's been my driving force to get my education. So yeah.
So you're saying you're saying you kind of buried your head in your book to kind of avoid life a little bit?
Yeah, just a little bit. It was a good thing though. I mean, I love learning. I love taking classes. It's going to be sad when I have to leave because I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'll just dedicate my life to like constantly learning. So
That's gonna be my next question is, what's your dream job? What's your dream life beyond college? Have you thought about that?
I do know that I want to work with youth eventually, helping them through their problems or giving them resources and stuff. But I'm not too sure because I'm still kind of interested in research side of psychology as well.
So is there a particular person who's like working a job that you would want to have? Is there a certain organization that you would love to be a part of?
I would definitely love to work with like foster youth. So maybe like independent living services or like Catholic charities. I'm not too sure. Those are kind of broad, but those are ones that like are pretty close to my heart as well.
Yeah, I think it's exciting. I think that also that part of dreaming, I think a lot of middle schoolers, sometimes dream a little bit, but like they don't really spend a lot of time dreaming. And I think it's fun to just do that and see that. But it's interesting that you can work really hard, study, get into a great college, and then not really know still, which is okay too, which is totally okay. So that's great. And I want to learn about your experience and how you ended up at Seattle University, and want to just know how you were able to pay for it and what it was like to live far away from home and all those things. So I'm excited to learn more. Thanks, Madison.
Yeah, of
Jessica,
course.
I have another question for you. Is there something that you really, just would love to experience or love to do?
Playing college basketball was always my dream as a kid. Community college, as soon as I made it there, I was like, oh, sweet, let's try to go to university. Now I'm just like, oh, maybe I kind of want to try overseas. From just being a little kid, just college itself was my basketball dream.
So you're actually living your dream.
Pretty much.
Yeah. So you wanted
Yeah.
you wanted to play basketball, and you were hoping you'd get a scholarship. And how old were you when you started to have that dream?
Probably like third grade when
And
I was playing on like a little AU team.
did you tell anyone at the time that that was your dream?
I mean, my dad, my brother, that's really about it. I mean, the friends I hung out with, I played basketball at the elementary. I was probably like one of 2 to 3 girls that always played at the basketball courts with the guys. So.
And what did your dad and your brother say when you said that?
They were okay with it. I mean, I kind of just took off from my brother. He always only played really basketball and like t-ball. So every time he went to basketball practice, I would tag along and just like hang out and shoot on the side hoops. And so they were just like okay with it.
Yeah. And then when you were what year were you in school where well, you know what? We'll get into that. I want to hold off because I'm excited to learn about the question that I'm going to ask you is like how do you let colleges know? Like what's the process if that's your dream? And I would love to be able to kind of track that dream from middle school to high school to where you are now. So if there are other athletes who think, if Jessica did it, I could do it. Let's give them a path. That's like the
Okay.
coolest thing. So we'll do
Yeah.
that. So thanks. Oscar, you've been so patient, my friend. So good to see you. Oscar, I know that you are also, what do you call people from White Swan? Is it like a, is there like a, is it like a white Swanian?
Uh, I don't know. It's just a white swan, a swanner. I don't
Swanner?
know.
Do
Swanner.
you just make that up?
No, I've been called that from like when I went to Perry. Like a lot of people don't know. Like when I was in Perry Tech, a lot of people didn't know where White Swan was at, and a lot of people would always think I'd tell them white salmon, and I would know it's white swans, and they'd be like, "Oh, so you're a swanner?" And I was like, "Whatever that means," but yeah,
So you,
that's
so
kind of
that's
where I heard that from.
So that's the label. All right, cool. So it's a nice thing. It's good to be a Swanner, right? So, Oscar, let us inside your world. Take us back to Oscar in high school or Oscar earlier in life. Who were you? What were you doing? Where were you hanging out? What was your dream, man?
I always kind of knew, like in the back of my head, like a university or college wasn't always going to be for me. And I always knew like once finishing college, I wanted to do something rather than just work a minimum wage job. So I know I had to educate myself a little more with like outside of high school education. I was never really the type of guy to like, oh, I want my grades to be perfect. The only times that were good enough was like when Jessica said you had to be eligible to play sports. That was the only times I'd really keep my grades up. But when I wasn't really doing sports or I wouldn't really care much about my grades or just school in general. I was that kind of guy that like didn't really like school, but I knew I had to finish it in order to get on to that past high school education. And that's what I really needed for Perry Tech was a high school diploma or a GED.
So you actually were thinking about that. Like, at what age did you start to think, I don't really think I want to go to college. I want to do this. I want to go on this other path.
I started to think more about that towards like middle school year when they started making you sign up for college bound and stuff like that, thinking about what you really want to do with your future, like university wise and stuff. And I never really thought it. I always looked into technical schools. I looked more into like Wyotech back when Wyotech was a thing. I know they were a really good school in Wyoming, but I don't know if they're still open or not. That's another one I was interested in. But I've always been interested in technical schools in that technical field.
Were you involved with any other activities or?
I was involved in agricultural with like classes like that, which I did FFA, which we raised pigs and then sold them at a livestock show. I also did a welding competition there too when I was taking those welding classes in high school. That's kind of what led me to where I'm at right now.
So the welding classes you took in high school, what did you do?
So I remember my freshman year, my first year when we started doing welding, we built a trailer, which was like to haul like garbage or a four wheeler or something small in the back. We built trailers, and then throughout the other years, we would fix little go karts that they had, which were like broken or something. We would fix that, and then we would race the go karts, which was fun. So yeah, it's a
So
little project that we would do.
yeah, that's so cool. So they had the welding equipment in your high school.
Yeah, we had a lot of welding. We had a lot of welding machines there. Pretty cool machines that I'm pretty familiar with now with all of them. Back in high school, I was not familiar with any of that stuff, and now it's just all it's. I'm pretty well familiar with all that stuff.
That's
Yeah, we would have really cool, expensive equipment. We did have expensive equipment that you would see in an industrial shop somewhere like a big shop. They did have some stuff like that, which was pretty cool to see.
That's great. Were your parents encouraging of your interest in welding or going to a technical school?
Oh yeah, they were very supportive of that. They wanted me. They didn't they didn't think I was gonna finish high school or graduate high school, so they were very proud of me when I told them I was gonna pursue my education in a technical degree with welding.
So you barely graduated.
Oh yeah, I failed Spanish. I I failed Spanish, but my first language is Spanish, and my Spanish teacher didn't want to fail me, so he passed me with a D. So that kind of, I didn't really like school.
Right. So like you're the guy, the other students who like really can't stand school and are just trying to get by,
Yeah,
you know, you were able to get by, but do you have any advice for those students?
and just keep in mind that you have to graduate. If you don't graduate, you want to pursue an education, you're gonna have to bust out for a GED, and then you're gonna have to pay for a GED, and then that's all stuff that's gonna hold you back in the future. So you might as well just do whatever you can to graduate and get that over the way. I had to do it, so I kind of just stuck with it with just enough to get by. So that's kind of just stick with it enough to get by.
You just got to go, right? You just got to get it done.
Yeah, you can't sit behind. You got to move with everybody.
Like when you were failing classes and just really struggling, was there anybody who helped you who was like, Oscar, you gotta just get this done and I'm gonna help you to do
Um,
it.
there was teachers that would make sure you were on track for graduation, and they would tell you like, oh, you need to take this class more serious in order to pass and graduate to be on track to graduation.
Who in particular was really helpful? Was there a particular teacher or counselor?
His name was Saul, and then Saul Ramble, and then another one our principal at the time. His name was Mr. Castilleja, Joey Castilleja. He really pushed me to really graduate and told me like, well, you need this in order to get your high school diploma, and I don't want you to feel like get left behind. So he gave me that motivation to want to graduate by
Yeah.
telling me that I could do it and it was possible.
Yeah. That's cool, man. So he helped you to see that. Because I think sometimes people don't have that. And if you don't have that and you're getting a D or an F and struggling, it's kind of like what's the point, right? Like you need people,
Yeah,
right? You
yeah,
gotta reach out to people and get the help, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, you can ask for help, but I kind of like the classes I would fail was like classes I knew like I was like not gonna like, oh, I didn't care how this would look on my record because I knew already like I wasn't going to a university, so I wasn't trying to make my transcript look like really good. So it's whatever. I just try keeping it to whatever can get by and gets accepted. That's all that really mattered for me. I wasn't trying to be like this star just shining kid. That wasn't me. I was just barely doing enough to get by.
And sometimes that's just what you need to do, and you did it, and then you were able to go to Perry Tech, and
Yeah,
I want to learn what it's like to apply to go to Perry Tech and then to get a job, and also, you know, to understand like what's your job and to help people understand what it's like to go through that process when they want to make that choice. And then I'm curious to know if you have any regrets or would do anything differently. So, we'll make this a cliffhanger. I'll come back to you in just a couple minutes. But thanks, Oscar. I really appreciate it. So, Madison, you have always wanted to go to college, right? Like that was something that you were going to do, right?
I mean, I kind of didn't really think about it like middle school, and then we kind of got in high school, and they're like, "Oh, like you need to go to college." I think that's like really pressured. And I kudos to Oscar for like going against the like norm because technical schools, like he has a job already, and I'm over here still getting my degree. So I don't know, I'm kind of jealous. But yeah, I think once I hit like high school, I was like, okay, like college is gonna be for me.
Yeah. And thinking about college and anticipating all of that, what part stressed you out the most while thinking about college and where would I go and can I go and how am I going to do this?
Yeah, I had no idea. I'm a first generation student, so I had no idea what the process looked like, no idea how I was going to afford it, where I was going to go, what I'm doing. I think that just the knowing the unknown, like I'm gonna apply and see where it goes, and whatever happens, happens. And I'm not usually that type of person. Um, so I think that was very stressful for me.
Yeah. So being a first gen student going through this process, where did you start? Who helped you, and when did you start?
I would say probably junior year of my high school. I kind of was like looking. I think it was going around that like we would have to apply for colleges. We had like counselors that would help us like with college fairs or stuff like that. And I think I just kind of went off the deep end, I guess I would say, and took the leap because I had no idea what I was doing. So I think junior year of my high school year.
So was there a counselor in particular, or the Gear Up program, was that a good resource for you?
My school counselor, Miss Shepard, she was very great at like helping me with stuff, as well as Mr. Shepard, which they helped me like kind of apply to colleges, read my essays or be recommendations for me.
When it came to applying and having to spend money on applications and going through that process, you know, what was that like? Did you have to spend a lot of money applying to schools? Were you able to get waivers? And just explain that part to everybody.
So our school, I think if you took like the SAT or something, you were able to like apply to 4 schools on waivers from like, I'm not sure how it worked out. I kind of just relied on the counselors to do that for me. But I also had resources because I'm a former foster youth. And so I was able to get like resources through like independent living services. And they helped me pay for like 5 or 6 colleges to apply to.
Because you are part of the foster system, you have like really cool benefits, right? Like there's some great perks to that when it comes to higher education. Can you kind of run through how that works to your advantage?
I got a full ride scholarship because I'm a foster youth student. Financial aid, I think it worked really well because I didn't have to file like with my parents or anything because I'm basically a dependent of the state. And so I was able to like get extra aid through the FAFSA, which is super nice. But I also, because of my status of being a former foster youth, I was able to get a scholarship at a private university that is really expensive. So definitely has great benefits.
Now, did you know that you would be eligible for a scholarship?
I think I found out probably a month before the application was due for Seattle University because I was originally thinking of going to like University of Washington or Bellingham, and I found out through my caseworker, and she was like, "Hey, like Seattle University has a full ride scholarship. You just have to apply, do the interview, obviously." And I was like, "Well, if I can get it all paid for, and it's a school, so be it, like sign me up." And so I think that was like my driving force to kind of apply to Seattle University as well.
Nice. And Seattle University, like I mean, most people don't pay the sticker price, but if somebody is paying, the advertised price, roughly what is that a semester or a year
Yeah, so if you're living on campus, it's 65,000.
for the whole year,
Yeah,
right? Like that's crazy. That's
yeah,
wild.
it's so much. I could never. I'm so grateful for like scholarships. Even without like my foster's identity, I guess I did still get a bunch of financial aid through FAFSA as well. And I'm not sure if Jessica or Oscar got the same, but I think it was really good to apply for my FAFSA.
Yeah. So for people who aren't familiar with the FAFSA, can you just tell them what that is and how easy or painful it is to go through the process?
Yeah, the first time I had no idea. I was like, what do I even do to fill this out? And I think this is where I kind of went to my counselors at school and was like, hey, like, I need to get this done for my school. Have no idea, excuse me, how to fill it out. And I think the hardest thing was just filling it out and like understanding what it even was. But I think now when I fill it out, I just click through it. I click right through it. It probably takes me about 5 minutes. I'm not too sure though. It's kind of broad, but yeah.
Madison, your scholarship, did that cover tuition, room, and board?
Yes.
Okay. And the difference is tuition is just the cost for your classes, but then you've got all those other expenses of room and board, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And you've paid, zero. You had no financial requirements, right?
Yeah, I paid zero. They pay for my books. They pay for a lot of great things. Along with my other scholarships that I get as well that I got from FAFSA. So
And when you were applying for scholarships, did you also apply beyond filling out your FAFSA? Did you apply for other scholarships?
Yeah, so I applied for another a foster youth one. That was money's there, so I'm like, let me apply for it. And
Yeah.
then I also applied for the Washington State Opportunity Scholarship, which is for STEM majors. I got it my first year, but unfortunately, I am no longer a STEM major, so kind of gave that to other people since I have a full ride already.
So what's your major right now?
I kind of came in as like thinking I wanted to do biology, something related to STEM. Didn't think that was the best fit for me. So I kind of switched to psychology, and that's always kind of been my like deep down thing that I've kind of wanted to do.
Did you have a couple tough classes and it made you rethink it, or what was the experience that helped you to change your major?
So I kind of came in with not having good math under my belt from high school. So I didn't even pass to get into the major from the start, which kind of was a sign in disguise for me because I was like, well, maybe I didn't actually want to do biology. I did take a plant biology class and I got a C minus, which is like, okay, I barely passed it and it wasn't anything I really wanted to do. I could never imagine taking 2 or 3 biology classes at once. Kudos to people that do. But I did take a psychology class and I was like, okay, like I'm really interested in this. Let me see what else I can take to see if I actually want to dedicate myself to psychology. And then I took a biopsychology class. So it was the biology part of psychology. And that sold me. I was like, okay, the next week I like changed my major to psychology.
That's fascinating that you made the change and that you got a C minus, because Madison, I wouldn't expect to hear from you that you got a C minus in anything, right?
Yeah, I think that was kind of my driving force. Like, oh, okay, like I didn't do that good in this class. I didn't like it for one. It wasn't like anything I was interested in. Plants are great, but I don't need to know what kind of leaves are on the plants. So I
That
think that was kind of the driving force. Like, oh, biology is not necessarily for me.
Did that freak you out when you got a grade that wasn't typical for you?
Yeah, it definitely made me a little sad because I put myself to higher standards than that. I hope
Yeah.
like sometimes obviously give myself grace, but I think I got a C minus and I was like, oh, okay, this is not okay in my book. This is not for me. So I think yeah, I was a little discouraged.
Yeah. Also, I want to ask you one more question, because I know we talked a lot about being a former foster youth, how it had these benefits when it comes to college and access, and it's something that anyone who's a foster youth, really use that, right? Is there ever a sense of discomfort, or you don't want to talk about that or use that in your favor because you just don't want that to be the thing that defines you or your future? Is that something that ever comes into conflict with just you or other people?
Yeah, I think applying to colleges in the first place, I was like, I don't really want to use this. I don't want to be like pity me in a sense. But I've kind of come to learn that that's like part of who I am. Like that was part of my experiences. And I think I'm treasuring it more than I did when I first started applying to colleges because before I wouldn't tell anyone. Like I'm sure Jessica and Oscar probably barely even like knew that since like I didn't really like talk about it or anything. Like I wasn't something that I was like putting out there like, oh, I'm a former foster youth. I don't have a family. Like there's just so many like stigmatizations even around college, like going to college. Like most foster youth don't go to college. Like there's like statistics and stuff like that. Fortunately, I'm breaking the odds for that, but that's good. Yeah, I think right now it's a little bit better for me to use because it is part of who I am and why I'm so driven and motivated to do school to continue my education as well.
Yeah. Um, Being a foster youth and going through all of the changes and the questions that I would imagine come with, just your path. Um, you know, was it hard for you? What was the biggest challenge being part of the foster care system for you personally?
Yeah, I think it was all of the moving around. I kind of stuck with White Swan, fortunately, since 7th grade, which is really nice because I wasn't able, like, I got really attached to the school. I got attached to the people. So I was able to like stick around until like we graduated. But I think moving around and constantly like being in different places, being scared of what's like, I was scared of the unknown. And I think I mentioned that a little bit earlier. I think that was my constant fear. But I also has made me better. Like maybe it made the transition to college a little easier for me because I had like been moved around a lot so much before. So yeah, there's pros and cons for sure.
So you've been with the same foster family since you were from 7th grade through graduation?
Yes and no. I had an unfortunate thing with one of my foster families, and then I moved in with a school counselor, which is
Oh,
kind of against the rules, but I had one more year of school left. Um, so yeah.
well, you got to do what you got to do. And in that situation, that school counselor probably really saved you, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, I had one more year, and I think that transition for finishing my senior year somewhere else would have been really hard. I don't think I would have even pushed my way to college. So I think everything happens for a reason, and I think it was very beneficial for me to stay at White Swan.
Yeah, you're really I mean, you're very strong. You're very matter of fact when we talk about this. Just, it's like this is what it was and this is but I imagine there's probably a lot of emotion that has it been emotional? I mean, have you been able to express that emotion and really feel it and had people around you who you can express it and feel it with?
Yeah. Um, it's interesting because when I was in high school, I kind of like hid my foster care status. I was like, I'm not like I'm normal, everything's fine. But I kind of got into this scholarship, and they have like a huge community of other foster youth that we kind of just, like talk about our foster care experience, or we just have come from similar backgrounds, which has been very grateful for me, like helpful, and I've been grateful for that community because it helped me find that community, and they're also from similar backgrounds, which is super nice, and I think that's really helped me kind of like get through college as well.
Yeah, so you have a community. That's so
Yeah.
wonderful. And you found that through the college foster scholarship, their program, their community, like the cohort. Yeah.
Yes.
And then just so other people because I want other people who are in the foster care system to hear this and be like, oh my gosh, like this is the jackpot. Like I'm gonna do this. And I want to know when it comes to the schools. I know Seattle University was wonderfully kind and in your corner. Are there a lot of other schools out there that offer these types of scholarships and aid to students who are in your situation or were in your situation?
Yeah. Yes, I think so. They don't necessarily, the ones at least in Washington State, don't necessarily have like the full ride, but most of if like you come from foster youth or you filed out on your FAFSA, your tuition is most likely going to get paid for. Like there's not going to be a penny you probably have to pay, especially because there's extra scholarships. Even with outside of universities, there's extra scholarships for those youth. Aid, of course, because estimated family, contribution is probably zero for most of us. So it's like you get a lot of that aid from FAFSA, which is really nice.
Do you need great grades?
Um, I think it depends. I think mostly it's like a 2.0 that you have to have. But yeah, not too crazy.
Right. That's great. That's so awesome. I'm really happy for you. And it's exciting and it's interesting. I want to learn more, and that's why I have so many questions. I just get so curious. Like, I'm like, the college stuff's really important, but what's more important is like I couldn't imagine being 11 or 12 and being in a home, and then do all of a sudden like does somebody did the people who your foster parents or is that do your foster parents all of a sudden say, we no longer can have, someone in our home. So then all of a sudden, without you even knowing, you wake up and it's time for you to leave.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's exactly how it is.
Right. So you never know, which ties into the unknown, in terms of stability, what tomorrow will bring.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And then there are some people though who will house children in their home for many years, right? So like if you get into a situation like that, you could probably feel a little more comfortable just thinking like historically these people have kept people in their home for a long time, but that's not always the case.
Yeah, it's not always the case. It's a little bit of a weird system, but thankfully I got to stay in the same place.
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
helped me a little bit. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're so strong. I couldn't even imagine, I don't think most people can. So, just thanks for being so generous and sharing all of this. And if my questions are too personal, let me know, be like, Harlan, stop, man, no more. I don't want to talk about this. Um,
Yeah.
but you seem super comfortable talking about it. So if anyone has questions, if anyone finds these conversations and they're like, I have a question, for Madison about her path, or for Oscar or Jessica, are you comfortable with people reaching out to you, and just asking you questions? You cool with that?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how about you, Oscar? Are you cool with that? Awesome. Cool. All right. So Jessica, I want to learn about this path. I want to learn how you get this scholarship, and how you get people's attention, and how they know about you. And then what happens when they offer you a scholarship? Like, do you just accept it? Do you negotiate? Like, what's that whole process? So, um, let's start off. You're playing basketball. You're starting to do pretty well. And when does the idea of being a scholarship athlete start to play out in real life?
I didn't even think about scholarships or anything probably till like end of my junior year. So like what was crazy was we went to Walla Walla to go play a basketball game. I did really good, scored about like 30 points, and just like some out of the blue, the coach was there for Walla Walla Community College. Just her son was coaching men, so she showed up, decided to show up early just to watch some of the girls. Just because after the game, my coach went into the locker room, was like, "Hey, Walla Walla women's coach is here to speak to you. Really good coach, really good program. So just sit down and listen." I was like, "Okay." I could do that. And she was like, "Yeah, I wasn't even gonna come. Just thought I'd stop by and see my son coach's game, and decided to show up a little early. Then I saw you." She's like, "You're a really good shooter. Would like you to join my team." And I was like, didn't know what to say. Thought she needed to answer now. And she's like, "I don't need to answer now. Here's my number. We'll keep in contact." And I was like, "Okay." So that was actually like my first time hearing from a coach. I didn't want to stay home. I didn't want to stay on the reservation. My goal was to leave the reservation and branch out. One thing I actually learned from school was from Mr. Shepard was to every time we'd go to class, he noticed we always sit by the same people. So some days at random, he'd just be like, "Okay, let's step out of your comfort zone. Let's go sit somewhere else." And he would give us a big speech about how college works and how you have to get out of your comfort zone sometimes. So as soon as like I started taking him, I'm like realizing, okay, I'm not going to stay here. I'm not going to stay on the reservation. I'm going to get out. I'm going to branch out and see where life takes me. So here I am in Vancouver, Washington now, going to school and doing what I have to do.
Wow. So you're not in Walla Walla right now.
No, I'm not. I graduated Walla Walla last year.
Nice. So you went to Walla Walla and you played for 2 years, right?
Yep.
And how was that experience?
It was new. It was fun. There were some tough times for sure, especially my freshman year. Just of me not knowing what to do with my money and how to spend it, like adulting wise. Like I need to save it, and just coming out of high school, having money, I was like, oh yeah, I got money to spend, friends to hang out with, things to do. And so that spring, I was really struggling. Was trying to find money to pay rent, find money to have groceries, and then still attend to school. I actually ate a lot at school rather than I did at home. And in our lockers, our coach provided snacks for before natural practice. So I ate a lot of those just because I was really tight on money. It was a struggle for sure my freshman year, just learning of how college works and how to just actually live life on your own with your own money. In high school, I always was just getting handed money from my dad. Actually didn't work my first job until the summer out of high school. I did wildland firefighting. So that's where I kind of got like a lot of money from. And that's where I just went crazy with it. But school and basketball together is really hard. Some days it's like 6 a.m.s, workouts, a gym time, and then go to class at 7:30, and then back in the gym like 2:30ish right after school. and then back home for homework, study, and then at it again tomorrow. Same thing. Some days we didn't even have games, or we had to leave right after school. Don't have time to study unless you're on the bus or a long bus ride back home. So it was pretty hard sometimes, but I always had a good push in the back from teammates and my coach on getting all my things. And I was falling behind like about mid-quarter. Had some missing assignments, and my coach pulled me in her office and was like, "You don't get these assignments in, you're not playing." So that was like she was a really good push in the back for me of how I finished school and graduated on time.
Yeah. I think it's exhausting. I mean, your days are,
It is sometimes. I mean, just the comfort of friends and having a good time, it just makes it a little bit easier, but it's still pretty hard.
yeah. So when they give you a scholarship, is that for just tuition, or do you also get expenses for that and additional funds?
Um, no, so it was just for tuition, but it was kind of like I don't know what you call it. Sometimes I got this like refund check back out of school and like the scholarships I had. So it would go straight to tuition. Whatever that I had left would get sent back to me. So that's what I kind of went off of. I didn't work at all when I was in college until the summer of my sophomore year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you were working so hard. You were a full-time athlete.
Yeah. So I really didn't even find time to have a job or anything. So
Yeah. Well, it sounds glamorous and exciting, but it sounds like it was really grueling at times.
yeah, it was.
So the financial piece, what advice do you have for someone who's making that transition? How can they be better equipped to handle the finances? What are some of the mistakes
Uh,
you made, and how can they learn from you?
like a lot actually. So when I first got my few checks, and then I was like, I've spent a lot of money back at home before I even left to college. Like that's how dumb it was. And then when I got to college, I was thinking like, I'm not gonna cook today. Let's go out with my friends. The next day is like the same thing over again, buying extra things that I don't need, or when I get bored in the house, I'm just like, oh, let's go out, let's go to like Target or something. And that was really dumb of me when I should have just like stayed home and cooked my groceries I already had. So I would just like the advice I would give is honestly just stay home. You could go out with friends if you have the money, but obviously I really didn't have the money to spend, but I did anyways. It was kind of more of like for me to fit in with them, which I really didn't need to do.
So you're in Walla Walla, which is far away from home. And was it difficult? Was it lonely? Did you get homesick? Did you struggle at all?
No, so like maybe like the first 2 weeks I was homesick, mostly just because those first 2 weeks I don't get the chance to go home because it's basketball conditioning, beginning of school, everything like that. And then so I was getting homesick then, and like it was the first 2 weeks of me trying to figure out friends and bonding, everything like that. But then after those first 2 weeks, I didn't want to go home. I wanted to stay like every weekend, and I'm just like I don't want to come back. And every time I go back home, I'm just like I don't know why I came. I already want to go back to Walla Walla. It was pretty kind of weird actually.
How does that work, being on the reservation and then leaving and going to college? Is there is there a conflict there? Do people not want to see you leave? Is it easy to leave? Are they encouraging? How does that work in terms of your identity and your culture and being far away from home?
Um, no, a lot of people are just like I really only see like really close friends or family. So every time I do come home, they're really excited to see me, but they understand like I always have to go back eventually. So they're okay. Like I mean, they don't try to hold me back or whatever.
Mm.
So I'm just like, I got to go back. And then some weekends I have free. Like after like about 3 weeks of basketball, we get a free weekend, and I chose not to go home because I didn't want to. It's just that weird feeling like home's always going to be there. Why would I want to go back when I'm away at college to have fun and meet friends and do what I got to do?
Nice. And then, did you say your faith is also important to you? Was that a place where you found connection and community?
Um, so I guess, yeah, a little bit. I mean, I don't know what to say about that one. So like right now, you said faith, right?
Yeah, I saw that. Um, I think I think you'd mentioned something that do you live with friends? Do you do something with church or community service or?
Yeah, so at Walla Walla, a lot of my teammates they went to church and um, did things like that, which I wasn't really into. Like I'm not very religious or anything like that. So they always try to like drag me out on my Sundays when I'm trying to be lazy and hang out, and they try to like drag me to church with them. I'm just like, I don't do this. I don't know what to do. I'm just gonna like stand there. Like was kind of a little bit uncomfortable with it. So they would like dress up super nice, come to my house in the morning to pick up my teammates while I'm just like sitting there in my lazy clothes, watching TV or whatever. And like I said no about maybe 3 times. And then the fourth time I was just like, heck of it, let's go. I'll give it a try. Um, it was like I think it was like I don't know what they called it, what kind of church it was, like where they play music, like they have a band. So it's like a lot more
Yeah.
like interesting, I guess, like more encouraging and fun. So like I actually enjoyed it. Kind of wish I went more. But I only went one time and I actually liked it. And like right now where I'm at Multnomah University is actually a public Bible school. So I have a lot to talk about that, but we could stick to Walla Walla for now.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll do that. But for people who are interested in that, is that a good option as well?
Yeah, I mean, I branched out, tried something new, and I actually liked it. I turned it down about 4 times before I actually did it, which I kind of wish I didn't because it was actually really fun, and it kind of just like released my stress. I felt like uplifted about it.
Yeah. Is that and I don't need to push too hard, but is that a controversial thing to talk about? You know, where you're from, or why are you a little reluctant?
It's just not what I was taught, I guess. I mean, my culture wise is a lot different. We kind of believe in our own thing. So I was just like, I wouldn't really fit in over there, never done it before. So I was just kind of like, when they first asked me, I was like, it was like a really hard no, like, no, I don't do that. And then the second time was like a still no. The third time was like kind of like a maybe, but I still said no, no. And then I finally was like, okay, let's go give it a try.
Yeah, and
Let's try
you like
something
it.
new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's. I mean, it's really cool that you experienced it, and
Yeah, it actually was. I think they call it like live church, where they actually like play a real band and sing, but it's actually like they're singing like verses, and it's actually really cool. I actually liked it.
so if anybody's invited, just maybe say no once, and then go the second time.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Not the fourth time.
Right, right. Just you got to say your no at first. You're not saying not to say no, but that's that's a great experience. So Oscar, I want to know what it's like to go to Perry Tech. I think you went to Perry Tech, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Oscar, tell me what it's like. So you graduate and you go to Perry Tech. Is Perry Tech really tough? Is it interesting? Is it exciting?
Made me focus a little bit more on actually going to school because once you get 3 tardies Perry Tech per quarter, you're kicked out with basically no reasoning to your tardies. It was pretty strict. It was the same with the grades too. You had to keep a passing grade in order to continue on the next quarter. I graduated September of 2019 and started in September of 2018. So it was a year-long program. It's basically like a workplace. It's you go there, you learn what you got to learn, and you go outside and you weld, you practice what you learn in the book, and you pretty much get better at what you're doing every day. So they treated it like a work day every day. You had to show up, be on time, clock in, clock out. So it kind of got you used to for what's after Perry Tech, which is kind of basically the same thing to where I'm at now, but they got me used to it, to like showing up on time and never taking days off when you don't really need to. It was
Yeah.
it was very different compared to high school.
So what I don't understand is you're a guy who like barely goes to school in high school. I mean, like you barely got through it. You just, did the
Yeah.
minimum, right? And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you graduate and you're at this intense school, like it's an intense program where if you get three tardies, you're thrown out, and you
Yeah.
have to all of a sudden be someone who's engaged. Like, how do you just like, flip the switch, turn it on? Is it are you like, pissed off at first? Like, what did I get myself into? What is this? Or are you like, oh man, I'm locked in, I'm ready?
At first it was a little hard because I mean, like from high school, there was days where I'd probably even go a whole week without even going to school. To where I had to go every day to school it was really hard transition. That was pretty hard for me. But other than that, like I mean, I got used to it because I knew I did get help financially through the college bound and FAFSA and all that stuff. So I did know. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm paying for this. I'm still gonna have to get my money's worth out of it. So that's what really motivated me to actually stick through it and try. And it was a pretty rough year. Throughout that one year, it was like I like barely like slid by like just for graduation. It was just there was just a lot of other things other than my attendance wasn't bad, but like the stuff we did like outside of Perry Tech and the rules they had was they didn't tolerate some of that stuff. And yeah, we kind of or my class got in trouble for that, for some stuff. And so we were kind of ready like on last strike or I was on last strike along with a couple other students to graduate Perry Tech. And I kind of just had to stick through it. Didn't even really talk to anybody towards the end of the year, just so I wouldn't say anything wrong or do anything wrong. I kind of just wanted to just finish up that year and get it over with.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you did it, but I didn't even know. So there are some things you can't do. Like, we don't have to get into the specifics of like what you were doing,
Um,
but like, can you
you just
kind of give us an idea of just what is tolerable and what is not?
so the thing that really got was like a random UAs for everybody. You kind of figure, what kind of stuff we get into as teenagers. But yeah, unfortunately, I did not pass that UA, and they made us. They did allow us to continue the schooling, but they had us do like a rehab class to check, you were an actual addict, blah blah blah, so forth and all that. And they were just constantly checking on you every month to make sure you're not doing anything and make sure you're on track to following their rules. And that's pretty much what it was. So like basically the rules you would have in a workplace, an actual workplace, they kind of like followed everything there as well.
Right. So they're getting you ready for a job, and
Yeah.
you focused on welding. Hey, was it expensive to go to Perry Tech?
Um, it was. I would say it's a little expensive if you're not from the area of where the school's at. Because if you're coming, there was a lot of kids from out from the west side coming out down to the Yakima area to live, and for them, I figure yes, it was getting expensive. But for me, since I was very far from home, it was only from White Swan to Perry Tech was only like a 45-minute drive every day, Monday through Thursday. And then halfway through that year, I moved in with my cousin, and he lived actually like I want to say like not even 10 minutes away from the school. So that really helped me out a lot. Just showing up to school early and making it on time, feeling a little bit more confident, showing up on time, you know?
Right.
So yeah,
So was
it,
it
it
thousands of
did get,
dollars? I'm sorry, Oscar.
um, it was expensive if, if you're living, if you're trying to find a place to live while you're attending Perry. That's the only way I would say it's expensive. But I mean, it's not really expensive. I can't really say it's expensive because a lot of people, like a lot of the people I met there, like almost everybody there had a job after school, so they wouldn't really say it was expensive. I can really say it was expensive for me. Didn't really hurt my pocket much going, just due to the fact that I was really close to home.
And you said you got some financial aid.
Yeah, I got financial aid through I think it was like college bound. We did college bound. I did college bound. Signed up for that in middle school, and that later helped me on throughout the year. I think the course was like I want to say $27,000 for the year course. And I think with my financial aid and all that stuff, I think I only ended up paying like it was like $9,000 or $8,000 from that.
So someone hears that and they're like, only 9 or 8, that's a lot of money. I don't have like 9 or 8
Yeah.
just sitting around. So how do you pay for that 9 or 8?
It's just so when you graduate, they give you time to start paying. I think it was a 6 months to start paying your student loans and all that stuff. And that's basically where I'm at now. Just graduated and just doing my payments on my school loans.
So how much are you paying a month on that, if I can ask?
Right now my monthly payments minimum is $50, but I do 100 every month
Right.
just to get it done faster.
Right. So then do you know how long
Yeah.
it's going to take for you to pay those off?
I can't tell you, to be honest. I don't know.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting, but it doesn't hurt you too much. It's kind of just like you don't even think about it and don't see it. It just goes there. It's just the
No,
investment.
yeah, it's nothing much to me because I knew it's got to get paid either way, and $100 it's really not much for my education to where I'm at right now. It's if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be where I'm at now. So it really doesn't hurt me to pay $100
Yeah. So tell me, so
every month.
now you graduate, do they give you a job? Are there people who are recruiting? How did you land your current job?
When you get ready to graduate, you're in your fourth quarter, and because it's divided into quarters, so that's your fourth quarter, and then like halfway through your fourth quarter, you do an externship. So it's on you. You decide whether you go out and look for a job, and you let them know that, hey, I'm a Peritech student. I'm getting here ready to graduate, and I want to get my foot in this door. Like, can I work for you guys? Let me show you guys what I can do. Basically, that's what I did. The company I ended up working for really liked my work ethic and everything, and they ended up just paying me while I was doing my externship, and I ended up just really liking it and ended up just staying there.
Your title, like what is your, what do you call yourself? You're like a master welder? I'm calling you a master
You
welder.
wouldn't say master welder. I would just say like a welder. You're a welder with a technical degree.
Okay.
That's what I would say. You would say
Okay.
a welder with a degree.
Roughly, when someone leaves, what's the range that someone would expect to make for that position?
When I got out, I wasn't really expecting much. I was just kind of like showing them, getting my foot in the door and letting them know what I can do. And they did start me off. I think it was like $18 an hour when I first started, and then now I'm in the 20s. Yeah, in the $20 range.
I think welding's really cool. Like, I don't think I really understand. I know like soldering and that, but welding, you said it's so cool. You get when you get that sheet metal and then you take that and
Yeah,
what are you welding?
So our process, what a regular process would be for me with something new, was we would get our blueprints, and we get our big old stack of blueprints, and then we get our stack of metal. So it all comes in a flat sheet of metal, depending on what it is: aluminum, stainless steel, or mild steel. That's what we all really work with. So after that, you get your metal. There's guys before there's processes that it goes to before it gets to me. So it'll go to the guy that either cuts it in a laser or in a water jet. That gets cut, and then after it gets cut, it gets sent off to another guy in the same shop that bends it. So he puts the bends in there, drills the holes, whatever it needs, and then it gets off to me. And then that's where I say, okay, so I got all these pieces, and then this piece goes here to that piece, just so forth. And then just tack it all up, and then I make sure it's all tacked up before I actually get to welding it, because if there's something wrong, if it's off by most of the stuff we do, we get tolerances on what we're off by. So I think the most we get is like a 30-second, which is not much, is a tiny little thing. So anything past that, you kind of gotta tweak your stuff out a little bit and just mess with it. It works your brain when you're working really well. Yeah.
You need to know a lot of math.
Yeah, dividing, adding fractions, stuff like that. You wouldn't really I wouldn't really say like get deep into math. That's where I was like, yeah, I was there's stuff, yeah, when you're fabricating and you're doing stuff from scratch where you don't got a computer system that would give you everything. There's a lot of math involved, but a lot of the days now, most of the stuff we use, it's you just put it in a computer, and the system just gives you out where what needs to go. So it makes it a lot easier. But
Nice.
yes, when I was going through Perry, we did do a lot of math, and that really did suck.
Well, I imagine with what you're doing and everything has to be so precise. What are you building? Like,
Yeah.
what are you working on,
Um,
today?
So right now we actually do got a pretty cool contract with SpaceX. We're building pedestals for their satellites. Um, and a lot of that stuff it's really thick metal, but it's still, when you're welding on it and you're adding a lot of heat, the metal tends to move. So you got to like really be like, oh, so if I weld here, it's gonna pull this side back. So you kind of got to know where you're welding in order for it not to move around and get all crazy on you. It's just something you learn throughout the time you're welding, and it's just stuff you're picking up as you're going through.
So the stuff you're working on, is that going to get launched into space?
Uh, not they're not it's the stuff I'm welding. It's the thing that gets connected to it is what gets launched up. They're called the Starlink satellites for how Elon Musk is trying to provide internet services for all around the world.
Yeah.
It's the satellites he's launching up. It's the basis for that. So that's what we're doing, which is
So
pretty cool.
So it doesn't actually get launched. That part stays on the ground.
Yeah, it stays on the ground, but the piece that's connected to it gets launched off.
Right. That's pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Like that's wild. I mean, what a fun thing to do. What an interesting.
Yeah, we do a lot of that, and then a lot of military work too, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So, I had someone here who had a job, and it wasn't a specialized of a job. It was someone who was working, I think, more of in a factory setting. And the person he was working with said, "Hey, you got to keep moving forward. You got to keep getting degrees because, if things change, if the industry change, or if something happens and they have to change their workforce, you end up being a little more vulnerable. And I think what you're doing is amazing, and I'm a huge supporter, and I think it's incredible. And people do it for their whole lives and do it really well and are able to take care of themselves and their families. But that part, is that a concern to you?
Not really, because where I'm at right now, if I do see myself growing with them, I could see myself being very successful there, because there's a lot of positions there that are constantly opening, and I'm always getting the opportunity there to, like, running a water jet. There's a lot of things to know to get on that, and certain skills for that too. Same as a laser jet, a press brake that bends all your parts. There's a lot of stuff that connect to welding rather than just welding, actually welding. So if
Yeah.
you're in a full on fabrication shop, it's a lot of fun, and there's lots of room to grow in there.
So it's really specialized work.
There's guys that do machining, that's really another part of my career where I really want to into my field to where I really want to go into is machining
Mm.
with lathes and stuff like that, which is pretty cool.
If someone's doing this for 10, 15 years, how much does that salary increase at the top?
I know guys there at my work, they're basically on salary. They're not getting paid by hour. So a lot of them are doing pretty well off, and it's just I'm not too exactly 100% sure on how that works, but I know there's a lot of room for growth and wise there in my shop where I'm working at.
And I'm asking you questions that are really none of my business, but it's for someone who's interested in going down this path. And sometimes the
Yeah.
questions that I ask are the questions that other people bring up. And I think that it's really interesting to know that there's room to grow, and it's so specialized, and you're doing like,
It just
yeah, Oscar.
Yeah, it's just like, if you want room for growth, I just learned one thing while going through Perry was it's patience. You gotta really be patient. You can't come out of Perry and expect to get this really high paying job. You gotta work for it. You gotta get that work ethic out there. You gotta show up every day to work, and they notice that, oh, this he's working fast, and his work's like really well quality work, like he deserves to get paid more than this guy down here because he's not working as hard as he is. So there's lots of room to grow with, and pay wise. And I'm like, I see it where I'm by myself, and it's where I'm to where I started to where I'm at right now. It's a big difference,
That's awesome.
and
And the
it's
thing
just
is
patience. That's the biggest thing it taught me.
patience, and you also love the work, right?
Oh yeah, you can't. I show up every day, and I there's days where I do like, oh man, I don't want to be here, but after like the first 2 3 hours of the day, I'm like, dang, I don't even want to go home. I kind of just want to finish this project and then go home.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's really exciting to see. And I mean, it's interesting to know that it was such a struggle in high school, and now you're like, are you on time every day?
uh, I can't say I'm not there. So that's the thing with my like the with like the leniency with me there is like since I'm one of their since that company where I'm at right now, it's called Patriot Companies, and they just barely started like 3 years ago, and I started like at the time they were opening. So like where I'm at there, I kind of got a little bit more seniority than everybody, so they kind of they kind of let a little bit more things slide with me. But where I'm at, I'm kind of the one in charge of what goes out and what's coming in. So I
Nice.
kind of already got a feel for the shop area. So whatever needs to get done, I'll go in, get it done, no matter how long it takes, and then
Yeah.
repeat, do it again tomorrow.
What advice do you have for someone who's thinking of going to a technical school?
Advice, I would say, just really stick to the rules and show up on time. I can't stress that enough. Just really be there on time to show them that you're really interested in, and you're really that's what employers want too. That they look at your attendance and your transcript from Perry Tech. They whether how much you missed, whether you were on time. That's just my biggest advice or my biggest things is tell them just be on time and make sure you got the good grades because you're paying for it, and you got to make it worth it.
So what do you think of forcing students to pay for high school? You think that do you think that would change their attendance?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's something you have to pay for. I mean, right? Why wouldn't you?
That's the secret, man. I think we just discovered, like, how we get people to go to high school. Well, I mean, they're
Yeah.
paying taxes, but yeah. So cool, man. That's fascinating. That's great stuff. Madison, I have a couple more questions for you. So when you're at Seattle University and you don't know anyone and you arrive on campus and you are a first generation student, how do you find friends?
Like at White Swan, like everybody knew everyone. Like we were cool with everyone. And then when you get to this like university, you're like, wow, there's a bigger world out there that I had no idea about. I mean, it's smaller than I think, but mainly most of my like closest friends have come from my scholarship community. But I've kind of branched out and went to like welcome week events when I first got to college. I definitely had like a random roommate assignment, so that was great in itself, I guess, because we didn't know each other and we kind of had to like get to know each other really quick because we lived together. Yeah, I also like the welcome week events were super, like I mentioned that, but they were super helpful for me to like meet someone. So like, for example, one of my resident assistants on my floor my first year was like, hey, like we're taking a group to go get boba in Seattle. I didn't know anybody. I went and literally met like a few people, and that was super nice. So nice to meet people. And I think I just took advantage of all the events I could go to and wasn't scared. Like I was scared to go by myself, obviously, but I think forcing myself to get out of my like little dorm room and get onto campus, or like even going to go eat lunch in the cafeteria. Mind you, I would just grab my food and run. Like I would go back to my room. Like I'm like, I don't want to meet everybody. I don't want to see anybody. I don't know anyone. But then sometimes I would just sit there and they're like, oh, like people would invite you to go eat with them, or like you would just meet someone randomly there. I think that's like the thing about college. Like you just meet them randomly. Like even if I'm not trying to make friends, I'm getting friends. So
Yeah. You didn't know anyone, right?
no, I knew absolutely no one except for like my scholarship because we did have like an orientation ahead of time, which is super nice. But I didn't even know anybody from college. It was very interesting.
Was there ever a time where you thought of quitting or transferring?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily transferring, just because I didn't really want to like have to like think about paying for something, which I'm fortunate and privileged to get my school paid for. But I definitely was like, maybe school's not for me. I think a little imposter syndrome kind of like came up. My first quarter, I was like, okay, like I didn't really know how rigorous it was going to be, even though that's ingrained in your head when you're like getting applying to colleges and stuff. I think yeah, I think that it really got to me. And I was kind of like, well, maybe like school's not for me, or like maybe I should go to a technical school. Like I'd be better off getting like a job sooner. Or like maybe I should just not go to school at all. I think I would like still be fine. Cause I mean, obviously that's still an option. Um, but I kind of just pushed through it and was like, okay, like even if I don't learn anything my first year of college, I'm just gonna push through it. And maybe once I get into like, for example, psychology classes and I really enjoy them, then maybe I will start learning. And that's kind of what happened.
When did it finally start to get more comfortable for people who are making the transition, just so they can kind of understand the timeline?
Yeah, I think for me, the first month of like my first year was kind of hard. I was like, okay, do I like go out to these events, or do I like go out with these people I met yesterday, or do do I do that? Also, the homesickness, like I know that was like one of the questions you asked Jessica. I think that really hit me. I didn't have, like my best friend from high school wasn't here. I couldn't see her like every single day or something like that, or like I couldn't see my family members. So I think that really hit me. So I was like, oh, well, I don't even really want to go to college. I think I was like upset. I was like, don't actually, no, actually take me back home. Like, I don't want to be here. And all my stuff was already in my dorm. So I think about a month in, I was like, okay, like I'm getting my place here. And I think Jessica mentioned too that it's like her home now. Like Seattle University is my home. Like I go home, I'm like, yeah, like this is great and everything. But now, like I'm out of Yakima or White Swan. I'm trying to go back to Seattle and like be with my friends and my community there. And so I've definitely like found my place, but it took me a little while.
Yeah. So that first year was just weird. Like it's just uncomfortable. And it's normal because a lot of students will come home, or transfer. And I think they don't expect that. Did anyone tell you that, hey Madison, this next year is going to be the uncomfortable year, and or the getting comfortable year, and it's just going to be hard. Like, did anybody tell you that? Did you know that that was normal?
Yeah, I mean, I heard like, oh, college is going to be hard and it's not like high school. And I heard all these things that like was fed to us, like when we're like trying to apply to colleges and stuff. But I didn't really like, it didn't hit me until, excuse me, until my family was literally leaving me in the parking lot and going back home. And I was like, well, now I'm stuck here. Like, what do I do? So I think, yeah, it didn't, I was told it, but I don't think, I think I'm pretty hard headed. When I was like, oh no, I'll be fine. Everything will be fine, but it wasn't actually like that fine. I actually had a little bit of a struggle. So
Yeah. Did
yeah.
you did any of you reach out to any counselors or therapists, or try to get some help along the way? Is that something that you did, Madison?
I mean, I had my like scholarship advisor. She kind of like forced us to kind of get together with our scholarship community. Like I said, that's a huge part of my like Seattle U experience so far. So that kind of forced us to kind of get out into like onto campus, or like even just to go see like hidden gardens on campus or something like that. So that kind of like forced me, and it was nice to like also reach out to her as well when like I was like, oh, maybe like college isn't for me, and so it was very nice to have like that extra support.
That's who helped you. And then being in the city, like, do you like being in Seattle? Tell me what it's like to go from a small town to be in a really big place.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you're familiar. White Swan literally has like little gas stations and no big stores or anything. And so coming to Seattle was huge change. Like I could literally walk downtown in like 30 minutes, which is super nice. It was definitely a change. Definitely, like there's always something going on. I think Seattle's like very fast paced, whereas White Swan's like, oh, go with the flow. Like things are like it is what it is. But Seattle is very fast paced. Like I had visited here before and whatever, but now living here for 3 years,
Yeah.
this is what I would prefer. I would prefer to have like tons of people around me and stuff like that. But I also miss like the tight knit community we had like in high school and stuff. So
Yeah, it's a big difference.
yeah.
Uh, it's a big difference. So I respect all your time. I mean, I love talking to you. I just have like two more questions, and we're going to wrap this up. Jessica, I just wanted to ask you, what was the most uncomfortable, challenging part for you? And, what really surprised you, and how were you able to get through that, Jessica?
Definitely the 6 a.m.s. I'm not a morning person one bit. Having to get up even just to work out, which I don't like to do either. So that was very challenging and uncomfortable. And having to actually be there on time, and their on time is 15 minutes early. So I was actually having to be there at 5:45. So that was really rough. And just going there to work out and then go to school and then go back to practice. It was actually really hard to, after practice, go back home and find the energy and motivation to do my schoolwork rather than just take a shower and go to bed.
Yeah.
So sometimes I had late nights when I just sit there in my kitchen by myself and work on schoolwork.
Did you ever think of quitting or stopping?
Like my first 2 weeks there. So they actually gave us a summer workout to do, and I was doing firefighting, so I didn't actually find time to do these workouts. So when I went there, I was kind of their weakest link at the time, weights wise and like sprinting. I wasn't very fast at all, couldn't lift a lot of weight. Knowing the people there actually did their summer workouts, was able to lift the weight that we were supposed to lift. So it was pretty embarrassing. I'm just like, my first 2 weeks, I was like, maybe this isn't for me. So that I wasn't made for. But then I stick to it. I got it done after weights. When seasons started coming, playing games, I was actually a starter and played the most minutes.
Who kept you there? Who said, Jessica, you got to keep trying? Like, how did you find the courage?
My lifting coach, actually. So we have about 3 to 4 different coaches there, and I was telling her, like, maybe this isn't for me, like this whole next level basketball thing. Like, I was thinking I couldn't do it at first, and she just said it takes time, because we never lift in high school. I mean, besides 30-minute weight room class we had or something like that. But during basketball, we never did lift. So during college basketball is a lot different, a huge different experience. My lifting coach actually gave me a big push in the back and just told me it's only 2 days a week. You can get through it. 2 days after practice, 2 days before practice. And I was like, okay, like, I'm gonna stick to it. Let's get it done. And then as soon as season came around the corner, I was a starting 5.
Wow. What's her name?
Trinan, so which is actually really cool. So it's Katie Trinan, and I don't know if you guys are familiar with baseball, but Blake Trinan is the pitcher for the Dodgers.
Oh, cool.
Is her husband. So he always came in to practice with us, and we would play with him sometimes, which is actually really nice. It was actually really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. So,
Yeah.
so she really has been in your corner. Is she still there for you?
I mean, we're not like super in touch like I thought we would be, but I mean, I could definitely still count on her for advice and everything like that. She actually was like reaching out individually to us, gave us like a meal plan, a workout plan, and like she knew our weaknesses, so she gave us those kind of things to help us.
Yeah, that's great. What advice do you have to someone who's in middle school or high school and wants to be a college athlete?
Do your workouts. uh, no, I would honestly tell them, like, when they're in their lowest, like how I was thinking, like, maybe this isn't for me, maybe I can't do this anymore, just to push through it. There's going to be better days. There's always find that person to turn to for sure, because I always had someone there for me to give me an extra push in the back or turn to and ask questions. So always find someone there, and if you don't have one, always believe in yourself for sure. You got to trust yourself that you can get through it, and that's what I did. I just told myself, it's only 2 days a week. I got to wake up at 6 a.m. and I can do it.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great. That's exciting. And you still want to play basketball? Like, you still love it, right?
Right.
Yeah, well, it'll be fun to watch and see, and maybe I'll reach out again, whether you're playing internationally or here in the States. That's awesome. So thanks for sharing all that. The last
Yeah,
question I have for you guys, and I'll just start with you, Jessica, and we'll do a quick circle, then we're gonna wrap this up. Jessica,
Okay.
if you could go back in time and see freshman you at White Swan High School and be able to approach freshman you and be like, "Hey, Jessica, it's me, Jessica, come here," and whisper something into freshman Jessica's ear, what would you tell you to help you to get through all of the things that you've been through?
Definitely my grades. It would start with my grades for sure. I really do wish I had better grades. Even colleges now always ask for high school transcripts. And I'm just like, shoot. So definitely I would tell myself to do the work, show up on time. It's a real life thing, like college, like you said, you're paying for it. So why wouldn't you show up for the money that you're giving? I actually took it for granted for sure, and it flew right by. So my advice would be take it seriously, get good grades, because you're always going to have to go back to those grades, and that's going to be where your life ends up too, off those grades.
With your grades, you've done pretty well. So while
Yeah.
while you wish you had done better, you're still kicking butt. So,
Yeah.
for anybody who's like, oh no, it's too late. Well, Jessica's doing all right. So cool. Thanks, Jessica. Madison,
Yeah.
I have a question for you as well. It's the same question. Madison, if you can go back in time and see freshman Madison and give yourself some advice, what would you tell you?
Probably a lot. I mean, there's so much that's happened. I mean, maybe that a pandemic might have come around soon. I don't know. Anyways, no, I'd probably tell her like give yourself grace because I constantly like even in high school I'd put myself to this high standard that I'm obviously working on still in college. But I think give yourself grace, like not getting an A one time or not like turning in an assignment on time or something like that. Like that's okay. Like it doesn't like your grade and like your assignments don't define who you are, and like no matter what your grades are, like if you put who you are towards like going to college or like whatever you dream to do, like you're going to be able to do it. And I think that would have helped me like boost my energy a little bit more and like more dedicated to like going to college, because I think I kind of just did it because everybody else was trying to do it. And I think maybe taking it slow and like just enjoying the time that I have and like giving myself grace, like I said, would be a super huge thing that I would tell myself.
Yeah, well, you're incredible, and what you've overcome and what you're doing. You're amazing, and just remember that. I'll be that little voice, just as an outsider, saying, Madison, you're incredible, you're worthy, you're deserving, and whatever your grades are, they're not a reflection of your value and worth, because you're just exceptional, and you should just know that. And I don't think a lot of you realize what heroes you are, and how hard you've worked and what you've done. And I always marvel, especially first gen students who are going through this. You're incredible, just
Thank
beyond.
you.
Yeah, and,
Thank you.
and I really mean that. And I have so much respect for you. And I just am pouring it on because I just want you to know it's really genuine and heartfelt, and it's true. So thank you.
Thank
Oscar,
you.
yes, and if I could help in any way, let me know. Uh, Oscar, I got a question for you. So Oscar, if you can go back in time and give freshman Oscar advice, if you could see freshman Oscar in high school, assuming it's a day you showed up. So you have to go on a day where you're actually there to see freshman Oscar in school. What would you tell you?
Just working on yourself and like you're presenting yourself and showing up on time to putting in that effort, to actually wanting to do something, just actually and be patient. Just it's all gonna fall into place eventually.
Do you think you would have listened to you?
Yeah, I know, because I mean I was young, just doing what I wanted to do, and I was hard headed. No one was gonna tell me anything. Whatever I wanted to do was what I was gonna do. But I mean that little I wish right now, I mean, I wish my math skills were a little bit greater and stuff like that, but it's just something you just learn by it, whether it's by practicing more math or something. It's just focus and just make yourself successful. Focus on something successful.
I was imagining you in high school having like you now walk up and it's like get away. Like, who are you, man? Like, I
Yeah, I
don't
don't
know.
want to listen to you.
Right. Like, I don't want to listen to you. Like, whatever. I'll figure it out later.
Yeah,
Leave me alone. I'm having fun.
yeah, pretty much that's how it was. But it's just a lot of dedication to what you got to do or
Yeah.
what you're forward to.
Thanks for that. You're all great to talk to. I love this conversation. Is there anything else any of you wanted to add before I wrap this up? Anything you wanted to clarify that you mentioned? Okay, because I always give you a chance. If anybody wants to reach out to Jessica or Madison or Oscar, uh, their information is going to be included, so you can connect with them. They're happy to answer your questions, and of course, I'm always happy to answer your questions as well. For anyone on the panel, if I can help you in any way, I'm in your corner, and I just want you to be so unbelievably successful and live a life that's just overflowing with happiness. Like, truly, like, I just want you to just live the most incredible lives. And anybody watching this, I want the same for you. So let me know how I can help you. I'm grateful to be in your corner, grateful to have White Swan High School students here to talk about, or White Swan High School alumni to talk about life beyond. And it has been amazing and interesting. And I'm just so grateful. So thank you all for being here. I'm Harlan Cohn. This has been another college conversation, and I look forward to continuing to be in your corner. Thanks, everyone.